Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sunday edition of the Football Diehards live show here. I am Armando Marsal, and with me I got Bobby Gomes. Bobby, how's it going, man?
Doing good, doing good.
I,
Really good.
I, I love it. I mean, this week you have the check right behind you, letting us know that it was a couple years ago, right? Not last year, it was the year before.
Like three.
Yeah, 3 years
Yeah,
ago,
I've always
the
had it.
millionaire maker check. Uh, it's funny. I was celebrating my birthday last night, and I had Manny Laurel with me. He's a friend of mine. He last season he was winning the Millionaire Maker, and in the last play of the game, he went from first to second. Same thing happened last week. He was winning the Millionaire Maker, and I believe an Earl Thomas interception. Neil put them from first to eighth place. So
He did it
he's
last week.
yes, he was winning the Millionaire Maker last week. And I think it was I believe he was telling me Earl Thomas interception last week put him from first to eighth place. So he ended up getting eighth place in the Millionaire Maker. But yeah, man, I mean, those are the tournaments we're all hoping for, and glad you got one. Hopefully today, my birthday weekend, I get to to feel that kind of victory. A lot of news going on here. We got Alshon Jeffrey's going to be playing today, it appears. We got Ronald Jones expected to be active. He hasn't really done much. Obviously, the rookie just hasn't done anything this season, and when you look at Peyton Barber struggling, it appears that, the Bucks want to give Jones a shot here. It just, against the Bears, it's a tough decision here, in my opinion. And then you got Gronk is battling an ankle injury, but he's expected to play. A lot of injury news going on here. Some things we're going to be keeping an eye on. Like I think the Randall Cobb news is going to make a big impact on us today, because I like we talked about this on Thursday. Geronimo Allison, to me, makes a very very sharp value play here. But when you look at it without Randall Cobb, it's something you got to really consider here. What are your thoughts on this slate? How are you approaching it?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of value at the wide receiver position. So in terms of cash, like pretty much the guys: Boyd, Mike Williams if Keenan sits, Geronimo if Cobb sits. Calvin Ridley's going to be pretty popular. I know Sterling Shepard's probably going to be the highest on wide receiver, just because Ingram's out, and that usage should be deviated. So yeah, like in cash, it's pretty self-explanatory. Low value at wide receiver, high at running back. And then in tournaments, I kind of like some of the lower value at running back, so I'm going to take my shots there, I would say.
Yeah. I'm still leaning on, I think there's so many value wide receivers here that I think I'm leaning in the direction of playing value wide receivers. But that said, there are some pretty good spots here to pay up for at that position. So, and like you, I've found some value here at the running back position. So it's an interesting week as far as roster construction is concerned, in my opinion here. So let's jump right into it. I mean, we got 12 games on the board. Obviously, we have some interesting ones and then some not so interesting ones. So the first game on the board is the New York Jets at Jacksonville. This is one of those games where I have, very little to zero exposure. This is a 39.5 over under. The Jags have a 23.5 implied team total. The Jets have a 16 implied team total here. Jaguars are 7.5-point favorites. This line has jumped a 1.5, but that does not mean anything to me here. This is just one of those games where I'm kind of fading. I really like the Jaguars defense. At most, that's the only play in my pool here. Do you have any different thoughts? Do you have anyone you like in this game?
I like Jags D for a tournament pivot from the Chargers, which is probably going to be the predominant cash play this week. So I really like Jags D. Sam Darnold, like very elongated throwing motion, so I feel like those ends will kind of get on to him pretty quick. I could see a couple turnovers, especially with Jalen Ramsey in the secondary. So
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a really good spot for this offense. This defense. I really do think that the Jaguars are if you're paying up for defense, I do like a cheaper defense for sure. But if you are paying up for defense, I think you go ahead and make room for them, because this is just a great spot at home against, a Jets offense that really doesn't have too much going on there. Aside from that, though, this is one of those games where I really have zero interest in. I know the Jets defense has been pretty solid, and this is a good matchup for them, but I just don't think that it's necessary to go there. Any other thoughts here before we move on to this next game? I know a game you have plenty of interest in.
No, that's pretty much it.
Miami at New England, Bobby. I mentioned Gronk is going to be playing through an ankle injury. This total has jumped up. It's now at a 50 point over under here. It was at 48 this morning, so it's jumped up 2 points. Very interesting to me. The New England Patriots are 6.5 point favorites. They have an implied team total of 28.25. The Dolphins have a 21.75 implied team total. Talk to me, because I know you had interest in this game, and I'm pretty sure that now with this line movement, you're going to have even more interest.
Yeah, I like the Dolphins side of the ball. I like Kenyon Drake. I like Kenny Stills. I like Albert Wilson. I like Amendola. I like Tannehill, stacking him with whoever. And then, on the Patriots side, I like Gronkowski. I have more interest in the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are probably get overlooked, and I think that they're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is one of those games where you want to have exposure to. I don't think it's going to garner a ton of ownership aside from maybe Rob Gronkowski, who I expect to be pretty chalky today. But I agree. I think targeting this Dolphins offense is a sneaky way to get some upside and low ownership for sure. I like Ryan Tannehill. What are your thoughts of playing him with none of his pass catchers, being that they spread the ball so much? Is that something you'd consider? I know that we try to avoid that. I know you like stacking, but he also does a lot with his legs. He's able to run the ball, and he could rush one in here. So I kind of like the idea of just playing a naked Ryan Tannehill here. What are your thoughts there?
No, yeah, you can run him. You can run him naked. I think that Amendola is probably gonna have. I'm not a revenge narrative guy, but I don't know. I think he's in a good spot at 4,100. He gets in the end zone. He catches 4 or 5 balls, and you're at it. You're in a pretty good position there. And then obviously doesn't have tournament upside, but Amendola, but Kenny Stills, who's covering me? Does he get Gilmore? I don't even care if he gets Gilmore. I still think one of these Dolphins receivers is going to go off. So
I think so too.
Well, I think
so too.
Yeah, I think if you're trying to, I think it wouldn't be the worst thing to stack. I think that these Patriots, the Patriots secondary is very suspect.
Exactly, and that's the thing. I think that there is some holes there, and I believe Stills is expected. Well, according to Pro Football Focus, Jason McCourty. Yeah. It's not the greatest of matchups, but I still think he has that kind of speed that this type of receivers they could break one for a long touchdown. So. Definitely something to consider here. Are you still as bullish as you were earlier in the week on Rob Gronkowski, or are you kind of toning it down there, being that he's playing through an ankle injury?
There's a couple other spots you can kind of hit.
Yeah, I agree. I pointed out, we'll get to that game, but I pointed out Ben Watson. I think he's in a really, really good spot. Too cheap, 3,300. I'm with you. And I agree. I think there are some other spots to take advantage of here. How about Sony Michel? Can I interest you in that?
No, I like it. I like it a lot. Probably have too much of it, to be perfectly honest, but I think that I'm probably too overweight on it. I just don't. I think with the spread being 6, there's no other. They don't really have a back that can pound it, and I think Sony kind of fits that mold. I don't think it's going to be James White. Although Brady said he wants to see James White play more regularly throughout the week. So, I don't know. I'd still take my chances with Sony.
Yeah. And before we jump to the next game, we have a couple questions here. So, we have in Standard League, Flex, Boyd or Mike Williams. I'd probably lean Boyd here. I like both of them quite a bit this week, but Boyd is I just think has a more solidified role on the offense, and he's on the field much more than Mike Williams is. So, I lean that way. Regarding Breida, we don't have news on that just yet from what I'm reading here. So We wouldn't know. We'll probably know in the next hour or so. And then we have any thoughts there on Mike Williams and Boyd?
I'd go Mike. I feel like I think I like the touchdown equity with Mike Williams. You said it was standard, right? Not PPR.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the touchdown equity with Mike Williams.
And then I'm looking at Breida, and it looks like he's expected to be active. No official word yet. We got Lindsay over Mike Williams. Do you, in standard scoring, who do you play there, Bobby? I lean Mike Williams there. I think that, I know Lindsay's been playing well, but I just lean Mike Williams there.
No, I'm with you.
FanDuel cash. This might be more of a question where you can answer because I don't play a ton of cash in FanDuel. I don't play a ton of FanDuel as it is. Gio Bernard, Drake, or Kerryon Johnson. I would assume Bernard is the play here.
I didn't play cash on FanDuel this week, but actually I didn't really play on FanDuel at all this week. But Bernard or Kerryon Johnson, probably. I wouldn't play Drake in cash.
Yeah, neither would I. Drake wouldn't be a cash option. I just think Bernard has a really, really solid floor here. What three would you play? Baldwin, Beckham, Gordon, Boyd, Ananua, Hopkins, PPR league. So I'm going Beckham, Hopkins, and Boyd. Actually, maybe Ananua. I think Beckham, Hopkins, and Ananua for me.
Yeah, I'd go Beckham, Boyd, and Hopkins, I think.
Yeah, to me, it's a toss-up between Boyd and Ananua. I'm just, when I'm playing these kind of leagues, I'm looking for a floor here. So PPR need one. Mike Williams, Boyd, Crabtree, Watkins. Boyd for me. Anything for you there?
Boyd for me too.
All right, so let's jump right into the next game. We have the Eagles heading over to Tennessee to take on the Titans. We saw, I mentioned at the start of the show, Alshon Jeffrey is going to make his season debut here. This game has a 41.5 over-under. The Eagles are 3-point favorites on the road. They have an implied team total of 22.25 points. Titans have a 19.25 implied team total here. Give me your thoughts on this game. Is there anyone here in your player pool that you are targeting?
Alshon. I'm not Alshon. I'm sorry. Nelson Aguilar.
I like that call a lot. I do like that call. I think a lot of people are just going to kind of move off of him because he wasn't all that great last week. And Alshon Jeffrey's back. But, I still think he's going to be a pretty decent factor in this offense. And last week, he only got 5 targets, but 2 weeks before that was 22. So I do think that Aguilar at 5,700, it's interesting, but he's not a core play of mine by any means. There are receivers in that price range that I feel a little bit better about. Anything else? And honestly, this is one of those games that I don't have much exposure to. Not a game that I have much interest in either. I just don't think that this is, I don't think there's a ton of upside here. I know Carson Wentz looked okay last week. He's very cheap. Maybe you can consider him as a tournament play because no one's going to be on him, and there's certainly upside there. But I just don't think it's a week that you need to go there.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah, so you probably have 0. Do you feel Eagles being a pretty good defense here at 3,300 on DraftKings?
Yeah, I don't mind them as a tournament pivot off the Chargers.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same board. I mean, Zach Ertz is interesting, but based on my roster construction, I am not going to be paying up for tight end this week. However, it must be noted that he has received 33 targets here through the first 3 weeks, and last week when Wentz's first game back, 10 targets, and I think we're going to see that quite a bit here. He would probably be my top play of this game. But not a game I have a ton of interest in here. So, and anything else here before we move on to the next game, because I think the next game might be a little bit more interesting as far as DFS is concerned.
No, I think we got it.
Texans at Colts here, 48 over under. The Texans are a 1-point dog on the road. They have a 23.5 implied team total. The Colts have a 24.5 implied team total. This is one of those games where I I have interest in. I don't have a ton of exposure, but I have a lot of interest in. I really like the Texans passing game here. I think Lamar Miller makes for a very, very strong play. I was kind of on him last week, and he didn't quite pan out, or it was 15.1 DraftKings points. He ran 10 yards on 10 carries, but he caught 5 passes here, and scored a touchdown. So I have interest in him again this week because I just feel that this is a Colts defense that does yield a lot of receptions to running backs. In fact, they've allowed 28 receptions through the first 3 games, 241 yards. Those 28 receptions are the 3rd highest allowed by any defense. And when you look at Lamar Miller, there's not a ton of upside, but I think that there's a pretty solid floor here. And his role is, solidified on this offense. There's really not a ton of competition. Give me your thoughts here on this game.
Yeah, I like Lamar Miller. I like Hopkins. Is Hopkins still got a Q tag?
Let me see. I think he does have a Q tag, and I think he is going to play. Yes, he does have a Q tag, and based on what I read this morning, he is expected to play.
So I think Hopkins is someone I'm trying to pay up for at the receiver position where there's so much value. I think it's a way to differentiate yourself this week is to kind of go high at the receiver position and go low for the value at the running back position. So Hopkins definitely one of the guys I'll be overexposed to in GPPs.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call. Are you on Fuller at all?
Yeah, I like Fuller as well.
And what do you feel about running it back with someone like if you're going to game stack here? What do you feel about running it back with someone like T.Y. Hilton, who I think is going to go completely overlooked? Double-digit targets in every game thus far.
Yeah, T.Y. in the dome. I'm concerned about his average depth of target, just like with Andrew Luck's arm, but he's in the dome, so it could become a track meet pretty quickly. So if I'd rather roster him in a dome with this type of with Luck's arm situation than basically not in a dome. So yeah, I think T.Y. is fine to run it back with. I think Ebron's fine
and he just
too.
Right? That's who I was going to bring up next because I know you mentioned there's some tight ends that you feel are. I think Ebron is a lock pretty much across the board. There's no Jack Doyle again this week. We saw Ebron wasn't efficient last week, and I think that might lower his ownership this week. But he got 11 targets, and I think that's worth noting. He only got 33 yards, caught 5 passes. Obviously, it wasn't a good performance by any means, but I believe Andrew Luck missed him on a touchdown pass as well, which would have changed his outcome here. So I do like him quite a bit. I think the volume's going to be there. I think his role without Jack Doyle is very, very strong here. So I definitely think at this price is way too cheap. He's probably top 3 tight end on my board this week. Without a doubt here. Anything else on this game? Any defenses? I'm fading the defenses. I know Texans can be interesting because they have, good pass rush or whatnot. But it's just not a spot that I'm trying to pick on here against the Colts. I still do respect this, Andrew Luck. I know his arm strength is down, but I do respect Andrew Luck here. Yeah. Any interest in there?
Defenses? No, not at all.
Yeah. Now, how about Deshaun Watson? What are your thoughts on him? Like he's not making my cut. I'm not making that many lineups. I'm actually making 3 unique lineups this week, so I'm not maxing out. So I don't have Deshaun Watson, but I still think he's a very, very strong play this week. I might be changing one of my lineups, and because I am strongly considering going someone like Deshaun Watson here.
Yeah, he didn't make my cut. I thought I was going to have him, and I just didn't end up having him.
Yeah, it's one of those weeks where I want to have him, but for some reason, he's just not making the cut here for me. So tough situation, but I do think there's plenty of upside here to be had for him. Anything else on this game? Because I'm ready to move on to the next if you are.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, we got Buffalo Bills heading over to Green Bay and taking on the Packers. This game has a 43.5 over-under. The line has moved down a point since it opened. The Packers are 9-point favorites here. They have an implied team total of 26.25 points. Bills have an implied team total of 17.25 points. Give me your thoughts here on this game, Bobby.
I like Aaron Jones a lot as a tournament flyer. I also like Allison if Cobb is out, but it's only if Cobb is out. And I don't really love the Green Bay passing game just because I think it's kind of like, what's the spread? Like 11? Like,
It's 9. It's actually moved down. It looks like there's some money going on to the onto Bills.
okay.
I'm with you, man. I think Aaron Jones is a pretty sharp play. I don't know how popular he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be popular at all. But if you're trying to, be different as far as lineup construction is concerned, a lot of people are going to be paying down the receiver. I think going Aaron Jones here in a favorable game script or a potential favorable game script makes a lot of sense here at 4,100. We saw him be very efficient last week in the small sample size, but he was efficient, averaging 7 yards per carry. I only think that as he gets a couple more reps in here, I think he's just going to play more snaps. It was his first game back last week, so I'm expecting him to have a pretty solid role here. Jamal Williams has struggled this season thus far. Ty Montgomery, we mentioned this on Thursday night. He's more of a pass catcher and kind of a third down back here. So I think it's really all that necessary to be too concerned about any of these two backs. So I do like Aaron Jones. And for me, Addison is in play whether Cobb plays or not. Obviously, he'll be far, far better if Cobb doesn't. But if Cobb if Cobb gives it a go, I think he's going to be limited. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. I think that will still reduce Addison's ownership because Cobb is quote unquote playing. But I don't think he's going to be a full goal today because it is a hamstring injury, and we know that those things linger quite a bit, especially for receivers and running backs. So I think Addison is a very, very strong play here, regardless of Cobb's inactive or active. I know right now it looks like he might not play. He's trending in the wrong direction as far as availability here, but I think it's a strong play here. How about any interest in Jimmy Graham?
Not really.
Yeah, neither do I. I just not a spot I need to go to this week. So I got nothing on the Buffalo side. I think the Packers make for an interesting tournament defense at 3,500. I don't think anyone's going to be playing them. And they're playing at home here. I know the Bills went to Minnesota last week and they put a smackdown on them, but I don't expect to see something like that again this week. So I think the Packers defense makes for an interesting tournament play. Aside from that, I really have nothing else here in this game. How about yourself?
Kelvin Benjamin. I think that he could be a
Oh man, we got a Kelvin Benjamin call here.
I think they're going to be playing from behind. That's like my only.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get it. You could totally make the case for that because, like you said, the game script really does favor him. He's 3,600, 5 targets last week. Now what?
He's 3,600.
Yeah, he's 3,600. There you go. More interest, huh? Look at that.
What do you get?
You got a grin now, smiling from year to year.
4.
There you go. Huh?
He used to be a 7K guy.
I know. Those days are long gone now, though.
Yeah. No.
Those days are long gone. Anything else on this game before we move on to the next game? I think that this next game, there's a really, really strong play that's going completely overlooked here.
No, you can go. What's the next game?
Detroit at Dallas. This game has a 43.5 over/under. It's pretty interesting because the line has moved a little bit here. The Cowboys were 3.5-point favorites, and now they're 2.5-point favorites. So it's moving in the line's favor here. Dallas Cowboys have a 23 implied team total. That's gone down from a 23.75 implied team total. And the Lions have a 20.5 implied team total here. 57% of the bets are on the over, and the Lions are receiving 51% of the bets against the spread. So kind of interesting as far from a Vegas standpoint of the betting that's going on here. Give me your thoughts on this game. I think you and I pretty much discussed this on Thursday, where Ezekiel Elliott is in a really, really strong spot here. These line movements don't make a difference for me. I still think he's in a strong spot. What are your thoughts here?
No, I love Elliott. I like him as a pivot off like Gordon or Kamara, I think it's a very strong play, especially how you talked about the other day, how he's being utilized in the passing game. I think he makes for a very interesting tournament pivots. But Lions run defense has been awful for the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, 450 rushing yards allowed this season thus far to running backs, 3 touchdowns. They've also allowed 116 receiving yards and a touchdown, 16 receptions to running backs this season. You mentioned that you and I discussed this. Elliott, 8 targets last week, 6 targets the week before that. He's 7,700. I just think it's way too cheap. He scored a touchdown in each of the first 2 games. He didn't score last week, but still, obviously the staple of this offense. And I just feel that this is a really, really good spot for him in a potential favorable situation. I think the game script is going to favor him. I think there is some sharp betting on the Lions, which is kind of concerning for me. But again, his role in the passing game. So even if this game does not pan out as I'm expecting, where the Cowboys are playing with a lead, even if this game does turn around and Cowboys are chasing points, his involvement in the passing game here makes him a really, really strong play. I have interest in Golden Tate. I think he's in a good spot here. He has a Q tag, but he's expected to suit up. He's dealing with a hip injury. What are your thoughts here? He has a really, really good matchup against Anthony Brown, a 34% advantage rating. Anthony Brown grades out well below average over at Pro Football Focus. Any interest here for you on the Lions side?
I kind of wouldn't mind running it back with Galladay or Tate. I wouldn't be opposed to either. I know the Dallas secondary is, I think, one of the better secondaries in the league, so it isn't something that I'm trying to attack. But the tournament's just throwing out a flyer. Yeah, I have no issue with it.
Yeah, and then we have, we've had questions today about Kerryon Johnson or whatnot. Is he making your player pool? We saw him, be pretty efficient last week with his touches, 16 carries for 101 yards. He also caught 2 passes out of the backfield. He's very capable of being a good pass catcher as well, making him a very high upside, and pretty safe floor so long as he's getting the volume here. Do you think at 4,400 he makes your player pool today?
Who's this?
Kerryon Johnson.
I think he could be. I think he's going to be pretty chalky in cash.
Do you really?
I think he's going to be one of the running backs that people are going to go to if they're going to use Gordon and Kamara.
That's interesting. You see, I didn't think he was going to be too popular this week. But
I thought at the beginning
that makes sense. I mean, if it's recency bias, that's going to make sense because he had a pretty strong game last week. So I can totally see it. And I'm looking here. Yeah, it looks like he's going to be anywhere between 8 and 10% owned from what I'm seeing. But I think that might be undervaluing the truth here. I think he will be a little bit more chalky than that. You're right. Just simply because when you look at game logs and his performance last week, you pretty much think he's going to garner some ownership here. Anything else in this game? I mean, for me, Elliott is a core play. He's going to be pretty much, like I said earlier, right now I have built 3 lineups, and he's in all 3 of them at this time. I just think he's in a really, really good spot. I don't think he's going to garner any ownership this week whatsoever. So I'm definitely going to be overweight on him. But aside from that, I mean, there's no core plays for me in this game. Anything for you before we move on?
I don't know. I think we pretty much hit it all.
All right, so we got the Buccaneers at Chicago. This is a pretty interesting game for me. I think that this is a game where there's some fantasy goodness. It's a 46 over under here. The Bears have a 24.5 implied team total. The Bucs have a 21.5 implied team total here. I think Allen Robinson is very, very strong play here. He's 5,900. And in a really, really good matchup. The Bucs has just struggled all season long against the pass and through the air. They funnel to the pass actually because they have a pretty strong run defense here. You pointed out in week 1, and it's something that I've kind of kept there on the back of my head every time I'm targeting this defense. I'm like, okay, they funnel to the pass. So Allen Robinson just makes too much sense at 5,900 here. Give me your thoughts on this game, Bobby.
I like Allen Robinson. I like Taylor Gabriel in the slot a ton, especially for tournaments. I like stacking him with Trubisky. I think you could stack him, Burton, and I think you could stack Gabriel and Burton and get up to another wide receiver other than Allen Robinson, or you could throw Allen Robinson in the stack. Allen Robinson's very cheap, so it's not like you need the savings. I think Taylor Gabriel, how explosive he is, how the Bears have been beaten in the slot. I think we've seen it week one with Emmanuel Sanders. I like Taylor Gabriel in this game, especially in GBPs, how fast and explosive he is as a player. He's going to get targets too. So,
yeah, and I agree. I agree. I think Gabriel makes for a strong play as well here, and I don't think he's going to garner much ownership. He had 10 targets last week, 7 the week before, so he's totally involved in this offense. And like you mentioned, I think that's a great thing. That you pointed out, the Bucs really do struggle here against the slot receiver. Although I do think Robinson will get some slot action. He's lined up there, I think 30% of the time this season. No Miller might increase that. So I do think the receivers here are interesting. Talk to me about Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans is a very, very strong tournament play.
Yeah, I think I like Mike Evans a lot, especially 50-50 ball guy. Like Fitzpatrick loves to just throw it up, and Mike Evans is like that guy that you want on the other end of it. I like Mike Evans. I like Deshaun. I like Godwin. Like this game, both of these front sevens are very strong. Both teams are going to have to throw the ball a ton. This is a game that you should be kind of looking at in tournaments, I think. Was there any positive line movement or?
No, on the contrary, I think the line moved down at one point, but and 53% of the bets are on the under. But I don't know, man. I really do like this game. I think this game is kind of one of those sneaky games where you're going to get some fantasy goodness. I think Evans is a really strong play. There's no, I believe, Prince Amukamara is not going to play. And Evans is expected to see Kyle Fuller, which is a really good matchup for me. Has a 43% advantage rating here. So I really do think that, I don't know, he's going to be like completely unowned here. I think there's plenty of upside. When you look at the volume on a week-to-week basis for Evans, it's there. 11 targets last week, 12 the week before, 7 in week 1. And when you look at, Ryan Fitzpatrick is the starter here, but if he struggles and they bring in Winston, I'm not saying that's going to be the case. Winston's going to target Evans anyways. I don't think it's going to affect him at all. So I really like the idea of, maybe playing Allen Robinson, who I have a lot of exposures to this week, and running it back with someone like a Mike Evans. I think that kind of game stack, like mini game stack like that is interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much in the same boat, to be perfectly honest.
And I don't hate, the Bears defense at 2,600. They've been very, very sharp this year. They've been very good. And we saw Fitzpatrick last week, even though he can put up 400 or 500 yards any given Sunday, based on how many times he throws, he can also turn the ball over quite a bit here, which will give the Bears some points. So far, they have 5 interceptions this season. They've recovered 3 fumbles. They have 14 sacks. They've scored twice already on defense. So they've allowed minimum damage. They looked good against the Green Bay in week 1. Aside from that, they haven't had any really strong matchups. Seattle's offense is not all that imposing, and at Arizona last week, obviously not a great, not a tough matchup for them. So, but this 2,600 price tag to me is very interesting. I think there's plenty of upside to be had there. Any thoughts here on their defense? Is it going to be someone you're targeting?
No, I like it at 2,600. How could you not? I just feel like it's just a spot.
Yeah. Any final thoughts here? I mean, obviously Jordan Howard might be interesting to some. He's just not making my player pool this week. I respect this front 7 for the Bucs enough to not have Howard in my player pool.
Yeah, I'm probably going to say I'm not going to have any Howard at all.
All right, let's move on to this next game where I think a lot of people are going to be excited about, and that is the Bengals at the Falcons, a 52-point over-under. It jumped 4 points from when it opened, but it is worth noting it's jumped down a point since yesterday because it was at 53 over-under here The Falcons do have a 27.75 implied team total. The Bengals have a 24.25 implied team total. Falcons are 3.5-point favorites. I want to point this out because I think this is very important here when we're analyzing this game. The Bengals open with a 21.25 implied team total. They have a 24.25 implied team total now. That their implied team total has jumped 3 points. To me, that's significant. Do you agree with that?
No, I agree with it. I like Giovanni Bernard a lot. I like AJ Green a lot. I like Boyd a lot.
I agree. I think Bernard is chalk, but I think Bernard's chalk, but I think it's chalk you must play. I actually had this discussion last night with Manny. Like I told you I was hanging out with him last night, and I told him there's chalk that you want to fade. There's chalk that you need to play, and I think Bernard is that. Just chalk. You just put him in your lineup and just figure it out from there. Don't worry about his ownership. This is just a really, really good spot. The Falcons are known to struggle against pass catching backs. They've already allowed 36 receptions this season, which is the most by any defense. 255 receiving yards to running backs, second most, and a receiving touchdown. They're clearly a team that struggles against the running back position. They're allowing the third most fantasy points per game. It's just, and we know without Joe Mixon on the field, Gio Bernard has a very strong role. We saw him last week. He caught 5 passes for 25 yards. He rushed for 61 yards and a touchdown. I really, really think that this is a strong spot for him. Even though his price increased a little bit, 6,300, I still think is very affordable considering his role and considering what he's capable of doing here.
No, I'm with you. I think he's in a smash spot, just in terms of just how they give up pass targets to the running back and stuff. You're talking about Gio, right?
Yeah, we're still stuck. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I've been talking about Gio because I like him that much, man.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Gio. Oh yeah, play Gio. Good chalk.
Yeah,
bad chalk.
I think Andy Dalton's going to be chalky here. What are your thoughts on someone like him? He's 5,400. He's attempted over 40 passes in each of the last 2 games. What are your thoughts here?
Bad chalk.
Yeah, you think it's bad chalk?
Yeah.
I'm honestly torn. I'm really torn here. I kind of like him a little bit. When you look at how he's been doing this season, he's looking good. He's looking good. He has plenty of weapons here. And again, when you're looking at Gio's involvement in the passing game, it sets up well for what Dalton does. Obviously, this is a potential high-scoring game, so just lots to like here. Honestly, right now, I said earlier, I'm thinking of fixing one of my lineups. He's the quarterback in that lineup where I'm thinking of kind of moving away. I wanted to get your take on that because I don't know if it's bad chalk or not. He's on the road. It's concerning. Andy Dalton is very capable of just going out there and putting a dud. I just don't know if that's going to be this weekend because it's a pretty solid matchup, and he has plenty of weapons here, which we see, and a better offensive line this season. So, I don't know. I have interest in him. I right now he's in my player pool. He's one of my quarterbacks that I'm starting. I do think it's a strong play here, but I'm not 100% sold on him. I like another quarterback in that price range so much better. I'm kind of
Andy Dalton's chalk. I fade him.
Yeah, right? When it's so concerning. When Dalton is chalk, it really is a concerning thing. I'm being serious. It really is concerning to me. Usually does not pan out. Usually doesn't end well when he is chalk. So I don't know. I right now I do have exposure to him. Obviously, he is one of my quarterbacks in my player pool. I do like him. But again, I'm not sure if I'm going to stick to that. Once we get off, I'm going to finalize some of my lineups and make that decision. I do think Tyler Boyd is a strong play. He's 4,600. I think Calvin Ridley is a very solid play at 4,900. I think he's going to be chalky. And I don't expect anything near what we saw last week. In fact, I think this might be a good week to go Julio Jones because no one's going to be on him, and this is a solid spot for him. I think where he can totally have a big game at home here against the Bengals in a favorable game script. So, but again, these cheap receivers are so intriguing because there's so much built-in upside with them, and they're so cheap. So it's tough to get away from them.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I honestly like. I'd have to go with Fade and Dot. Yeah, I don't. You can. What you said was correct.
Yeah. And the tight end situation here, Tyler Eifert, he's 3,800. We saw him 8 targets last week. Any interest in the tight ends from this game, whether it's Eifert or Hooper here?
Eifert with the 8 targets, but my issue with Eifert is he doesn't do much in between the 20s. But I didn't watch that game tape last week. But if he was getting targeted and he's seen 8 targets, like, yeah, he's definitely in play, especially with the one.
Yeah, I agree. And this is just one of those games where I'm not gonna lie to you that the fact that it dropped from 53 to 52 to me it says something. And yesterday 82% of the bets were on the over. Today it's 76. So there is some money being placed on the under here. I don't know. Do you feel like this game could be a trap? I think we need to talk about this game a little bit more because of that. Do you think this game could be a trap game as far as what the Vegas numbers are stating?
I think it could be a trap game.
Right? I have that feeling.
Dalton Chalk, it's a trap game.
I feel like this is one of those games where it can totally be a trap game.
Gio, I don't know.
Huh?
I'm starting to.
Well, no, I think Gio gets it regardless. I personally think Gio gets it regardless because if he gives you, 50 to 60 yards, which is a very reasonable projection, and he catches, 4 to 6, maybe 7 passes here, which I think is very, very, realistic. He's paying off his salary at 6,300. That's what I'm saying. If he scores, is a bonus. If he scores, is a bonus for me. At 6,300, I think the fact that he's going to catch passes out of the backfield and things like that is going to just increase his floor here. So I do think Gio is in play regardless. To me, it's a matter of, do I want a game stack here? I think a lot of people are going to game stack. Do I want to, fade the Dalton Chalk, which is something I'm strongly considering because I do think this is a potential trap game here. And we always have those on the board when there's a high over under, but it just doesn't make too much sense. And to me, I don't know. I think this is again. I'm a strong believer in this Bengals offense this year. Going into the season, I thought they were going to be better. I had Andy Dalton probably projected higher than most heading into the season for season long leagues, and I did have higher expectations than most for him. But this is one of those weeks where, again, he's chalky. I don't know. It's something to me doesn't make sense. Like my gut feeling here is just to kind of avoid him this week, to be honest with you. But I do think he's in a phenomenal spot.
Yeah, I think he's bad chalk, like we said.
Yeah.
Regardless.
All right. Yeah, I agree. Again, I'm not going to fault anyone for playing him because he is in a very, very good spot. It's just one of those, like, there's the numbers say to play him. The numbers, the matchup, everything says to play him, guys. It's just more of a kind of like a gut feeling type thing for me than anything else where I think it's just this is a potential trap game here. So, all right. So we got that game covered pretty good. Let's move on to the next game. And we got Seattle heading to Arizona. This is this game has a 40-point over under. The Seahawks have a 21.75 implied team total. The Cardinals have an 18.25 implied team total. Some interesting line movement here. This game was opened at a 37.5, and it's moved up 2 points here. Does that do anything for you here? Are you looking into this game a little bit more because of that?
No one's going to play David Johnson. No one.
Yeah, I saw you on the chat earlier when I logged on. You mentioned something about David Johnson. So you like David Johnson here, huh?
Yeah, well, I don't love him. I just think that no one's going to play him, and he's a stud. You know what I mean?
And I think that might be something to look into. And when I give you this number right here, I think you're going to like him even more. So the Seahawks have allowed the 6th most rushing yards this season to running backs. They've also surrendered 11 catches for 103 yards and a touchdown here to running backs. So pretty solid spot for him. This is not that defense that we once knew that was shut down. They're much more vulnerable. So I agree with you. I think that the Cardinals want to do a better job at getting David Johnson involved here. And you mentioned he's going to go unowned in this matchup here, and he's what, 6,600, the cheapest he's been all season.
Awesome.
Very, very cheap price. That's like, to put this into perspective, guys. He started the season 8,800. He is 6,600 in week 4. I think that's something that you must, analyze here. Very good price. Obviously, he hasn't shown that seeding, that upside that we're used to seeing from him, but we know he's still an elite back. The situation there in Arizona is not that good, but I do think we're going to see plenty of checkdowns this week here from Josh Rosen. So I do expect him to maybe see a little bit more in the passing department here. Anything as far as a receiver, we talked a little bit on Thursday regarding Kirk here. Christian Kirk, he 8 targets last week. He and Rosen played in college together. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, they obviously have the familiarity. Like, I wouldn't overlook Kirk. That he's another one of the value wide receivers on this slate. Like, and there's a billion of them, it seems like.
Yeah, I think he's going to be one of those that goes completely overlooked. I think he's fine for cash. I don't know if I feel comfortable for with his upside ceiling in tournaments, but I do think he should be steady in cash here. I do think that there's a pretty safe floor, and his price tag is just way too cheap. So I definitely think that you can fit him in here. Doug Baldwin is on track to play this week. He's listed as questionable, but he did practice on Friday, and did get in some work. So I don't know. I don't know if he's going to play. Even if he does, though, I don't think I'm playing him. But it's worth pointing out because he's only 5,500 here.
5,500.
Huh?
It's a nice play to probably run it back with if you do roster David Johnson.
Yeah, I think there's positive correlation there as well. Yeah. I just don't know if it's tough, man. It's tough because he's coming off that knee injury. He wasn't healthy to start the season. Now he does have a really good matchup. He has a 40% advantage rating here, according to Pro Football Focus. So that is worth pointing out, in my opinion. Actually, one of the top 10 as far as advantage rating is concerned this weekend. So, and he's only 5,500. I just don't know if there's going to be any limitations or whatnot here with him. But again, a situation that probably I won't be targeting, even though he's playing. Any final thoughts here on this game? We got 3 more games to go. One which will probably take some time. Actually, all 3 games are pretty interesting here, but anything else in this game before we move on to the next game?
No, that's pretty much it.
So we got the Browns heading to Oakland. I know you are pretty excited about this game. At least you were on Thursday. I don't know if anything has changed for you here. 44.5 over under. The Raiders have a 23.5 implied team total. The Browns have a 21 implied team total. Talk to me about this game, Bob, because I know you have much more interest than I do here. Where are you at?
I like Baker and Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr at home is a pretty good spot. Baker, I think he'll probably be pretty chalky. But I like him as well. I like Njoku. I like Callaway. I like pairing Carr up with Cooper. I don't stacking this game like I'm stacked. I'm trying to stack this game.
Yeah, I mean, I do think this is an interesting game for sure. I think targeting Cleveland's pass defense and is a way to go here. I actually think Carlos Hyde is very interesting. He's 5,500.
Yeah,
I think Baker Mayfield under center really does increase Hyde's upside and floor here. He rushed the ball 23 times last week. He's been quietly productive this season. I know last week he had a huge game, 24.3 fantasy points. But when you look at week 1, he rushed the ball 22 times. Week 2, it was against New Orleans. I don't think the game script was really all that favorable for him. He did rush 16 times. He did score a touchdown. I think this is going to be a really, really good spot for Hyde here, especially with Baker Mayfield under center. When you look at Oakland's run defense, they're not all that great. They did a good job against Miami last week, but I think it was more because of what the game script led. It's still Oakland, to me, struggles against the run quite a bit here. So I do like Hyde. I do think that he's one of those running backs that could go overlooked and does have, plenty of upside considering, the offense is in and what we're expecting. I also like Jarvis Landry. I think he's going to be peppered with plenty of targets here. So I do like that, matchup for him against, the Raiders. He's expected to see coverage by Leon Hall, who is graded well below average over at Pro Football Focus. I do like him quite a bit. You pointed out, to me, Cooper earlier in the week, and it's tough to ignore that price tag. It really is. I know he's coming off of a subpar performance, and so far he's been hit or miss this season. But we did see his true upside in week 2 against the Broncos, that were 10 catches for 160 yards, scoring 24.6 DraftKings points that day, and he didn't even get in the end zone. And this is, in my opinion, a Browns defense that does funnel to the pass. So I think he's a very strong play. Especially I think if you think if you think Allen Robinson is going to be a little bit popular, I think pivoting to someone like Cooper does make a lot of sense. Talk to me about the tight ends here. I think this is a situation where we kind of have to point these guys out. David Njoku, to me, is interesting. Last week, I mentioned this on Thursday. Last week, he only saw 2 targets and caught both of them. But the average depth of target there was 18 yards. Or actually, no, that was I'm sorry, not the depth. Yeah, he caught both of them for 36 yards. 18. He was averaging 18 yards there. It's worth noting because the first 2 games he caught 7 passes combined for 33 yards combined. So I do think he and Mayfield make a lot of sense here because they're going to be low, or not. I don't know about low ownership, but they are going to garner very little of your salary. And Njoku, we saw in the preseason, there's just so much upside there. Give me your thoughts on him.
Yeah, I like Njoku a lot, especially this week. If you want to run 2 tight ends with him and Gronk, I think it works out. I think that he's definitely a good tournament pivot. If Ebron is chalk, he's not the guy I'm going to be playing in tournaments, I'm going to pivot to Njoku. And I don't mind. He didn't get the targets last week, but I feel like eventually he will get the target, so I don't mind him as a cash play.
Yeah, man, that's cash is tough for me there, but I do think he's a strong tournament play for sure, and it makes for a solid pivot play from Eric Ebron. I do have someone else in that price range, which we'll talk about next, but I think that, going that down here for tight end makes just a lot of sense this week. It just does, especially when we look at potential lineup construction, how we can be different this week. I think that's one way to be different because I do think Gronk is going to be very, very chalky. Anything else on this game? Because I know this was a game you were a little bit more keen on than I was. You kind of pointed it out to me, so I did pick on some players here, and Hyde to me just stands out quite a bit here.
No, yeah, I like Hyde. I think he's a solid player. Callaway too.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next game. Probably my favorite game on the board, and that's the Saints at New York. This game has a 51.5 over under. It's moved up 2 points since it opened. The Saints have a 27.5 implied team total. The Giants have a 24 implied team total. Saints are 3.5-point road favorites here. The only thing that I am concerned about in this spot is the fact that the Saints are on the road. They're not playing in a dome, which does concern me because the first 3 games of this season, they have played in a dome. However, I still think Drew Brees is in a phenomenal spot here. We know how bad the Saints defense has looked, so that's forced them through to throw a ton. In addition, there's no Mark Ingram. You and I actually talked about this in week 1, that the fact that Mark Ingram is not going to be around for the first 4 games could increase the passing game here for the Saints. And so far, it looks like that's what the case is. 45 pass attempts in week 1, 35 in week 2, 49 in week 3. Drew Brees is just slinging it, and I think that continues today. He's had a really, really strong start to the season thus far, over 1,000 yards already through the first 3 weeks. Give me your thoughts here on this game and on the Saints, offense.
Yeah, no, I like the Saints offense. I love Kamara, especially with this. Olivier Vernon's out, correct? So I think that that just is an issue for the Giants. They have slow linebackers as it is. You're going to take away their best defensive player pretty much. Yeah, the only thing about the Saints that kind of worries me is they're not in the dome.
Yeah, and that's the same thing that concerns me. That's the same thing that concerns me. But I don't know. I just think they're still
– This is different. Like his Drew Brees' home road splits are drastic.
Yeah, and that is concerning to me. That is concerning to me. I still think this is a good spot. I really do like them quite a bit. I think Kamara should be a core play for everyone. I'm paying up in that spot. I think it's just his involvement, in the red zone, in the passing game, in the run game. It's just his usage is so high that it's tough to not fit him in. I really do think that by not playing him, you're going to be uncomfortable watching football on Sunday, to be honest with you, because you're going to be watching the red zone. Huh?
He's just waiting.
Yeah, you're going to be watching the red zone channel. You're going to see the Saints in the red zone. You're going to be like, here goes Kamara. I mean, here it goes. It's going to happen. So I'm playing him. I don't think you should be fading him. I know he's going to be popular, but it is what it is. I just think he's that strong of a play. Michael Thomas, he's off to a great start this season. He has a good matchup, but if I'm paying up for anyone here, it's going to be Kamara. He does draw a phenomenal matchup. I'm talking about Thomas, where against Janoris Jenkins. So obviously, if you want to play Thomas, by all means, I think he's fine. If you can find a way to, pretty much stack them all three of them, I consider that. But to me, that's going to be very, very tough when you look at how much Thomas and Kamara are combined. The tight end I was alluding to is in this game, Ben Watson. He's 3,300 here. I think it gets a really, really good matchup. The Giants defense have done a solid job against tight ends this year, but I think it's because they haven't played any, respectable tight end. It's just kind of mediocre tight ends. Not saying Watson's a stud by any means, but I do think this is the best tight end they've seen all season long. His targets are trending in the right direction. 4 in week 1, 5 in week 2, 6 in week 3. I expect something along the lines of 5 to 7 targets here for Watson in a really, really good spot. So I do think that's a unique way to get in a Saints stack if you want to go in that direction with someone like maybe playing Kamara and Watson, because I do think he's going to be involved in this game. Any thoughts on him before we move on to the Giants side of the things?
Not really.
All right. What do you like?
I think he's a great. We stream tight ends versus the Giants, so yeah, he's fine.
Yeah,
I think he's a good play. I like the.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying he's gonna come here and score 3 touchdowns, light up the scoreboard, but I do think at that price.
I really like the Watson. I think I got ripped at Football's IELTS for saying Watson was a sneaky old guy. I forget there was a write-ups over the summer we were supposed to do. I think he's in a good spot. I like the call. I'm with it.
Yeah, I'm going to be playing him this week, and I think it's a good spot. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get in the end zone for the first time this year. The Giants side, to me, I alluded to earlier, there's a quarterback I like in that Dalton range, and that's Eli Manning. I just think this is a really, really good spot for him. We've seen the Saints struggle immensely against the pass this year. They've made, quarterbacks look like like gods to start the season. Eli Manning obviously has struggled, but he did have a game against Jacksonville, which is a tough defense, obviously. In week 2, he was at Dallas. A division game, those usually play a little bit tougher, and I think Dallas' defense is underrated. And last week it was at Houston. He threw for 297 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think another underrated defense there. I think this is the best matchup, or I don't think. This is the best matchup Manning has had all season. I don't hear a ton of buzz surrounding Manning. He is very, very volatile. I get that. But there is plenty of upside here, especially if we like all his pass catchers, because I think Sterling Shepard's a great play. He's going to be chalky. Saquon Barkley, in my opinion, is a very sneaky tournament play. Odell Beckham is a really, really good spot here. I know it's Lattimore, and that's a tough matchup, but still, they're going to move around Odell Beckham here and put him in good spots. So what are your thoughts here? This is one of my favorite offenses of the slate.
I love OBJ.
Yeah. I'm glad you do because I like him quite a bit. I think he's sneaky. I think everyone's going to play Shepard. I think a way to be different here with this giant stack is to go with someone like OBJ, just because no one's going to play him. Shepard at 4,900 to me it's a lock. He is. I really do think he's just too good for that price tag. His involvement without Evan Ingram is pretty significant. His red zone involvement, he's tied with OBJ for the most red zone work here on the Giants as far as passing game is concerned. So I do think Shepard at 4,900, he's a lock-in cash. I'm going to be playing him in tournaments as well. But I do like the idea of also tossing in an Odell Beckham there at 8,700 because no one else is going to do that. Any other thoughts here? I mean, this is an offense that I have a lot of exposure to, mostly in the passing game. I think Eli Manning is my top quarterback, point per dollar wise, at least on the slate. Shepard, very, very strong receiver option this week at 4,900. I think one of the best point per dollar plays as well. And when you're looking for upside, you can't get any better than OBJ at the receiver position.
Yeah, no, Shep's in every one of my cash game lineups. So,
yeah, I think he's a must this week. I really do. I do think he's a must play this week, especially in cash games. I can see the merit in fading him in tournaments because of the ownership, and there's so many receivers in that price range. But I don't think it's necessary to fade him this week. How about Saquon Barkley? Are you going to be playing him this week?
But I like him.
Yeah, I like him quite a bit too. I just can't fit him in this week. I much rather have someone like Ezekiel Elliott or pay up a little bit more for someone like Kamara. But I do think, if you have 8,100 left in your flex option, I would not talk you out of playing Barkley. I think he's in a good spot here. Any final thoughts in this game before we move on to the next?
That's it.
All right, so the last and final game here, we got the Chargers hosting the 49ers. This game has a 46 over-under. Chargers are 10.5-point favorites here. They have an implied team total of 28.25. 49ers have a 17.75 implied team total. Give me your thoughts on this game, Bobby.
Melvin Gordon, cash game lock, I feel like, with that total. Is Keenan active? Do we know? I think he's going to play.
I'm looking for that news right now, actually. Last I read, he was questionable. I don't see anything where they've officially made an announcement. And I think that's probably because it's a later game. Well, he's not. But I know what you're going to allude to here, and I think it would be Mike Williams, right?
Mike Williams is cash. Well, I think if Keenan's out, I think Keenan's going to play though. But I think Keenan's
going to play. I like Mike Williams with or without Keenan.
Yeah, no, I like him with or without Keenan, but in tournament, like if you want to use him in cash games, I feel like he's more of a tournament play if Keenan's there. Am I wrong?
I agree with you 100% there. I don't think you need to go to Williams in cash.
Yeah,
I agree. There are better options in that price range, safer floors, I think, than Williams. But I think the ceiling is through the roof here. And the Niners have struggled against the pass this year, so it's a good spot for him. I have interest in Rivers. I really do have interest in Rivers. I think the Niners defense they funnel to the pass a little bit. They've been respectable against the run. And that's why, like you mentioned Gordon, I think he's interesting because this is a tough run defense, but he is so involved in the passing game that it does increase his floor here quite a bit, and there's plenty of upside.
If Keenan sits, like the implied team total is 28, and then Keenan was questionable. So
I think if Keenan sits, I think that'll decrease.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that'll easily go down like a point or two.
Yeah.
Because he's expected to play. He's been trending in the right direction like the whole week, so I expect him to play. I do have a lot of interest here in Rivers. I think Rivers is a pretty sharp play. I don't think anyone's going to be on him. This is a defense, again, that funnels through the pass. They have a healthy implied team total. I think maybe going him and Mike Williams, it's a sneaky stack. You can, it's not that expensive to do. Especially when you look at Mike Williams' price at 4,500. So I think that's a sneaky way to, get it done here. And Rivers, at the end of the day, he slings it. He slings it. I know he's, week one, it was 51% pass attempts and 27, 30. So they let him sling it, and he's had some, in week 2, he played against the Bills. They were way ahead, and he threw it 27 times, 3 touchdowns. So I do think that if the Chargers are going to have a big lead here, it is because of Rivers more than Gordon. So I do think that, kind of pairing them or playing him as a potential stack here is pretty interesting. I'm still deciding on what I'm going to do with him, in one of my lineups, but I do think that that's kind of a sneaky way to get plenty of upside at low ownership here. Anything else? I know the Chargers defense is going to be very chalky, rightfully so. But again, I'm either paying down. They're at that price range for me that if I look at them, at 3,900, I'm going to find a way to get an extra 200 and get get to the Jaguars, or just pay down and maybe get someone like, I didn't mention Seattle. Seattle's defense is interesting. I do like the Bears. I mentioned them. So that would be the way I go.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
All right. Any final thoughts on this game? And then we can kind of close it out. I know you got lineups to build. I know you got lineups to edit. So any final thoughts here on this game and then on the slate?
Happy birthday, Armando.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Let's get to a couple of these questions before we get off. So we got Eagles or Cardinals defense. Eagles for me.
Yeah, I'm with the Eagles.
Need advice. Pick 2. John Brown, Antonio Callaway, Philip Lindsay, James White, Tyler Boyd. I'm going with James White and John Brown.
I'm going James White and Tyler Boyd. I like Callaway.
Yeah, me too. I was between John Brown and Tyler Boyd for my second pick. It's really tough. So, I'll stick with Brown and White. David Johnson, hold or trade. If trade, what value? I mean, you got to hold Johnson at this point because I don't think you're going to get, his face value. I think you're going to be getting, I think he's undervalued right now as far as what you're going to get for him. If he still holds name value in your league, by all means, go ahead and trade him. I actually have him in my home league, and I've been trying to move him, and the offers I've been getting are pretty absurd. So I'm not going to go there as far as trading him right now, unless you're getting very, very good value. I don't know if you want to touch base on that. I know, it's a season long. I know you play season long. Yeah, I agree. Elliott, a good cash play. I think Elliott's a sharp play all around. Personally, I think he's underpriced. I think that you're getting a good bang for your buck. Although, if I'm, building my cash game lineups, I probably will not fit him in, considering how I would approach it. However, I would not fault anyone who plays Elliott in cash.
No, yeah, I wouldn't mind playing Elliott in cash. He's too cheap, and their run defense is terrible with the Lions.
Yeah. Tyler Boyd, cash play, favorable matchup? ?
Cash play.
You think Boyd?
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. PPR flex, carry on, Mike Williams, Crabtree, Watkins. I think we answered this, but you mentioned
carry on.
Okay. Yeah, I think carry on. I think I might have said Mike Williams there, but I think both are really, really good plays. And then the defense between Cleveland and Dallas. Give me Dallas. I mean, neither of those defenses are imposing or exciting, but Dallas. Who is the best cheap running back today? Who?
Kenyon Drake.
I like Kenyon Drake quite a bit. I'd be honest with you. We didn't really talk too much about him. We briefly talked about him, but I do like him. I like Lamar Miller as well. I think 5K is very, very good price for him. Williams, Ridley, Boyd, or Allison DFS bargain, or roll with all and pay up towards running backs and defense, QB, and tight end. I mean, I like the idea of paying down a receiver. I don't know how chalky those roster constructions are going to be. I am not paying up for Gronk. I know Bobby is. I'm not paying up for Gronk. He's in a smash spot, guys. I just, I can't outplay all the chalk, and I just like some of the other chalk much better than Gronk. He's dealing with an injury. again, this is a smash spot for him. I am very, very nervous about fading Gronk myself here, but I do like the idea of paying out receiver and paying out for running back this week. To answer your question, any thoughts there? I know you're kind of taking a different approach.
Yeah, I'm going up at receiver and down at running back this week, so
yeah,
be different.
All right, we answered all questions. Any final thoughts this week and before we get off, Bobby?
No, just good luck in week 4, guys.
Yep, good luck to everyone in week 4. We will see you next week. We'll be here at the same time, 11 a.m. Come check us out on Thursday. We always record the Thursday night show before the Thursday night game. Break down pretty much that game and just kind of a overview on what we're expecting for the following week. So look forward to talking to you guys. Good luck to everyone. You can follow me on Twitter at Armando_Marsal. Bobby, give me your Twitter handle, please.
Bobby Gomes, DFS.
All right, guys. Good luck to all. See you next weekend.
See you next weekend.